"Okay, Corporal, same as yesterday. We're looking to go 5 steps, no rush." Susan's voice was calm, but she stood at the ready to catch Hackett if he needed support. Hackett grinned at Kellen and, like a little kid, said, "Watch this, Captain." With a deep breath in, he lifted his prosthetic leg, and slowly he placed the leg a few inches in front of him. Sweat rolled down his face from the effort, but when he accomplished it, he yelled, "Ta-da!" Kellen grinned. She could never have been so good-natured about such an ordeal. But then, this was why she'd enjoyed having Hackett in her unit. Kellen clapped enthusiastically and grabbed a small towel from a nearby basket. Susan nodded her thanks as Kellen wiped the sweat out of Hackett's eyes. "Good job, soldier, but you owe your PT 4 more steps." "Yes, ma'am." Hackett braced himself again on the bars, picking up his other leg and pushing it forward, inch by inch. When he'd caught his breath, he said, "Captain, tell me something interesting to keep my mind off this super fun activity." Susan laughed softly at his obvious sarcasm. "Where are you deployed to next?" he asked. Kellen froze. She hadn't really adjusted to the truth herself, so it was hard to say it out loud, but she owed Hackett the unvarnished truth. "I'm not." Hackett looked up from scowling at his unresponsive leg. "What do you mean, ma'am?" He managed one more slow step, his knuckles white against the bars. "Corporal, I mean that I'm being medically discharged, just like you." Kellen smiled tightly. No need to head back to all that dust and grime in Kuwait. Hackett was too young to hide his surprise. "Wow, Captain, that's a really bad break. I know you wanted to stay in for the long haul." After Susan cleared her throat firmly and pointedly, in response to his comment, he turned his concentration onto his next step. His arms were shaking. He needed to get those last 2 steps in. Kellen shrugged. "I'm not as lucky as you thought I was. The Army frowns at a captain remaining unconscious for 2 days for no reason, except that she landed on her head. Nah, I still believe in your luck. All those explosions and we're both still alive. Sounds pretty lucky to me." Kellen thought for a moment. If Hackett could look at the situation with such good humor and positive thinking, she could stop acting like her world had ended, though it still felt as if it had. Hackett pushed his leg forward again, and when he stopped panting for breath, leading Susan to say firmly, "Stop holding your breath, Corporal," he asked, "What are you going to do now? Head back to the States?" He cocked his head to the side, thinking, "Wait, I've never asked you, where is home for you?" Kellen pursed her lips. "I don't have a home." Hackett nodded and didn't say anything. A lack thereof was a fairly common theme in the Army. Kellen continued, before Hackett could ask more revealing questions. "I'm not sure where I'll go or what I'll do. I've been checking out a resort job in Washington State," which was as far away from Maine as she could get and stay in the lower 48. "The resort looks gorgeous, very out of the way, but I'm not sure I ever want to go stateside again." Hackett pushed his leg forward one last time. His pain was evident in the tightness of his jaw, the paleness of his skin. But he still looked over at Susan and pulled a funny face. She chuckled and held him up so he could turn around and slip gratefully into the wheelchair she had waiting for him at the end of the parallel bars. Susan leaned down to adjust his legs onto the footstands. "I'm proud of you, Corporal. For that, you get a 15-minute break before we work on your flexibility." Hackett gathered himself and smiled. "You spoil me so, ma'am. I will take your kind offer." Susan and Kellen both laughed. "If only more kids were like Hackett," Susan said to Kellen. "He never says I can't." She went over to the mats on the other side of the small gym to prepare the foam rollers, stretch bands, and towels for Hackett's flexibility regimen, leaving Kellen and Hackett alone. "What about you, soldier?" Kellen asked quietly. "Where are you off to once you get back on your feet? No pun intended." Hackett chortled softly at her joke. "I've had to change my plans up a bit. Seems to me I won't be running in the Olympics anytime soon." For a split second, he looked incredibly sad, a man watching his boyhood dreams crumble. But he held himself straight in his chair,